Today, we wrap up our masked up triple feature with Chris Nash's 2024 gory yet gradual ambient slasher. The killer's POV takes precedence, local lore is as unforgiving as nature itself, and you'll quickly learn that your hard-earned Fitbit numbers don't stand a goddamn chance against undead serial killers seeking bloody revenge as we trade in chilling chase scenes for savage strolls to meet the monster known only as Johnny in A Violent Nature.
You're listening to How I Met Your Monster, a podcast that explores the introductions to your favorite movie monsters. My name's Zach.
I'm Danny.
And I'm Casey.
And together we dive into the world of horror to find out how filmmakers have introduced us to our favorite monsters time and time again. This is How I Met Your Monster.
Boss, you opened it. We came.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left.
Explorers in further regions of experience. Demons to some, angels to others.
Call you Meatloaf! Surprise, Sydney.
Come on, don't be chicken shit.
Welcome to How I Met Your Monster, the show where we discuss the introductions to your favorite movie monsters. Today we are wrapping up our masked up triple feature with 2024's slow burn of a horror movie. I mean, it's sort of a slow burn, but not really a slow burn. He just walks slow.
Yeah.
There's lots of nature, but it's in a violent nature. That's why it's nature, because it's in a violent nature.
Nature in itself is pretty violent.
Yeah.
This is just a different kind of violence.
Uh-huh.
It's not a natural violence. It's actually an unnatural violence. So it's an unnatural violence in a violent nature.
Yes.
An unnatural nature of violence. What?
Yeah. Yeah, you get it.
You get it.
So before we get started, make sure to subscribe to How I Met Your Monster on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your horror movie podcasts. So you never miss these cool monsters like Johnny in a unnatural, naturalistic, violent nature documentary. So yeah, make sure to follow the show so you don't miss cool things like this. And also, Danny,
Yes.
Have you ever wanted to subscribe to a horror movie magazine that gives you like cool behind the scenes write-ups, pictures, upcoming stuff, and like just really cool horror movie shit?
I've had the urge once in my life, and I gave in to the temptation, and I now have a subscription to a horror movie magazine.
Let me guess, you paid full price for it.
I paid full price, and now I'm living in just a life of regret, and I'm filing bankruptcy, and things just aren't working out. If only I had gone into that with some kind of deal. I mean, even if I just got, to be honest, like I'd settle on a solid 20% off. My life I'd be riding smooth right now. Life would be better.
Yeah.
I would have zero problems, but I would still have my horror movie magazine subscription.
Yes. Well, you know what? It's so funny that we're having this conversation right now, because right now you can get that. I mean, it's not going to help you because you're already filing for bankruptcy. But
yeah, I'm too far gone. Yeah, my life is over.
But it can help other people who were in your position not to be in your current position. All you got to do is visit shop.fangoria.com and use promo code How I Met Your Monster, and you can get that 20% off that would have saved your life.
God, see, if only knowledge is power. And I'm not one of those people. It's like, if I can't have it, no one can. But since I can't have it, I hope everyone can, and everyone can, because all you got to do is, what is it, Zach? You just got to put in it's got to be it's probably the most difficult process to save 20% off, right?
You would think, but it's actually really easy. You just visit shop.fangoria.com, fill up your shopping cart, your digital shopping cart. You don't even have to like pick up stuff. Like you don't even have to like exert any energy other than like clicking your mouse button or your thumb if you're on your phone. And then you just enter promo code How I Met Your Monster at checkout, and you get 20% off. And you also, this is the kicker, you also get to help support our show.
Oh my God. So it's like killing two birds with one stone. But in this case, when you throw the stone at the two birds, they like thrive.
Yes.
So you're breathing life into this.
And also when you throw the stone, there's always one bird that gets away, and he and he and he drops a magazine. He had one in his claws that he was reading when you threw the stone.
Are these storks? Do they carry, instead of babies, they carry around magazine subscriptions?
Yeah.
And if you could just hit them with a stone, they'll drop. I get it. Okay. So this is 20% off is the equivalent of throwing a stone at a pair of storks and allowing one of them to fly away. And in doing so, drop a magazine onto your lap.
Exactly.
Zach, you should have just said that from the beginning. It makes so much sense. All right.
Well, I'm glad we cleared it up though now, so other people don't have to just ruin everything about their lives.
Thank you, Zach, and to everyone listening, you're welcome.
Yeah. So shop.fangoria.com, How I Met Your Monster, promo code 20% off, help support our show. Now that very nature based scenario is out of the way, we can talk about this nature based movie called In a Violent Nature.
Yeah. We were talking about some fowls as in birds, and now we're about to talk about something foul as in the things that happen here.
The pretzel kill.
Oy.
God. But yeah, we're talking about 2024's In a Violent Nature, written, directed by Chris Nash. So I was listening to some interviews with Chris, and turns out he was inspired a lot by Gus Van Sant and like the simplicity of his films like Jerry and Elephant. Now I never saw like Jerry.
Day in the Life movies.
Yeah. I never saw Jerry, but I know it's just Matt Damon and Casey Affleck like out in the desert, just in bad shape. But I used to own Elephant on DVD. That's a very disturbing movie, but I can definitely see where he got inspiration from that.
Yeah. It's if you guys haven't seen Elephant, it's basically like recounting the last day of a school shooter's life right before they, do that, what they're going to do. But it's not in a way that feels,
well, yeah, because you're following a character. You're not following the school shooter until like a little bit later in the movie for a little bit, but like you're following just like a kid who goes to that school.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
For most of the day.
In a while.
And then there's a little bit where it switches and then it goes back, I think. But it's much like this one where you're like following right behind him and you're just like going through the hallways and stuff like that. And that's very much like this movie where you're following our slasher character of Johnny through the woods, and you just stick with him mostly for the whole time.
I've seen a lot of people compare it to, if you guys have played the Friday the 13th, the game, where you can have the option of playing as Jason. And a lot of it is obviously you're just walking around trying to figure out how you're going to kill teens, and you got to do it in some cases a little secretively so you don't get seen. And a lot of this movie is just sort of, it's everything that it's just a change of perspective. It's a really fun idea. It's very fresh. And it's just like, what's going on? What's Jason doing while the teens are doing their thing? And in this case, not a whole lot, which is to be expected. But he's just kind of walking around, maybe finding some weapons and kind of figuring out the lay of the land so that he knows kind of the best way to execute his, I was going to say his plan, but to execute his victims.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I heard one of the producers, Peter Kaplowski, he was doing an interview at San Diego Comic-Con when this movie was first released. And he was talking how like the whole intention going into this was to kind of try to feel like the third or fourth movie in like a franchise that already like it doesn't exist, but you're kind of living in it already. So like the backstory is like the White Plains slaughter. It took place like 70 years ago, and there was like a boy and his dad, and some shit went down where the people played a prank on the kid and he died. And then later, all the people that were involved in that ended up dead. And then years passed and Johnny comes back and he kills more people. And then they like bury him, and they put the necklace that I think that his mother wore like over his grave to like keep him at bay. And that's kind of where the movie starts, is that somebody takes the necklace and he resurrects. But it's funny that producer Peter Kaplowski that I just mentioned, he actually has ties to some Oklahoma films, because there's a filmmaker here in Oklahoma City named Mickey Reece who has quite a few movies under his belt now. A couple of them you can see on Shudder, and Peter Kaplowski was also a producer on some of those films too. And he's a producer on this. So
it's the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, but it's the 6 degrees of Mickey Reece.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He did that movie Agnes, which you can find on Shudder, and he did one called Climate of the Hunter, which was I think it was like a vampire-esque story. But yeah, so Johnny is our monster today.
Yeah, this movie is like, it's the opening Michael Myers Halloween POV sequence of Friday the 13th movies.
Yes.
So you're like watching a Friday movie, but it feels like that scene specifically.
Yeah, it's really cool, because I remember telling you and Casey about this when I saw it in the theater when it came out, and I was telling you guys, it's like it has because I know Casey, who's not with us on this episode, she's a huge Art the Clown fan, very violent. She loves dark, violent shit, and so I was like, there's stuff for everybody, because I said, you, Danny, are gonna love this movie for the atmosphere and just like the Friday the 13th feeling of it all. And Casey's going to love it for the violence and all the creative kills that happen. So there's a little bit for everybody.
There is a little bit for everybody. I mean, there's something for people who just like nature documentaries, because
that's right.
What's the difference? You're sitting down watching Planet Earth, and you're literally watching like a whole episode of a lion. Like their journey is like, how the fuck am I going to kill this gazelle?
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of it, you're like rooting for it. You're like, fucking kill the fucking gazelle. Like, you need to survive. So what is really the difference when you're watching this and you're watching Johnny in the same general like aesthetic and setup, killing off people who, as far as he's concerned, is wronging him or needs to die, in the same way a lion might say the same thing about a gazelle.
Yeah. Fuck that gazelle.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, we are an
the lion wants to eat the gazelle.
Yeah. Not fuck it.
Not fuck the gazelle.
What if the end of it you're like, it's like the rom-com version of Planet Earth. He doesn't want to kill the gazelle. They end up like falling for each other. It's like opposites attract.
Yeah. It's like he's chasing the gazelle, and you're like, yeah, get him. You think he's gonna kill him, and it's like, oh no,
it's not what I meant by get him, but this took a turn.
But so Danny, did you enjoy this movie?
I did. I enjoyed it. I remember right when it started, it had been talked up quite a bit. I have a friend of mine had said they saw it like 4 times by the time.
Oh, damn.
Like very shortly after its release. So I was like, oh, okay. Can't go anywhere but down from here, which is not the best way to start sometimes with a movie.
Yeah.
But no,
tough.
I really enjoyed it. It did everything you said, like in terms of the movie is, to borrow a phrase from a younger generation, maybe, like, it's a vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that as in a good way. It's a compliment. It's a very unique type of movie, and we can go like ad nauseum and kind of repeating ourselves in terms of like why this movie is so different from other slashers. But it kind of like bears repeating, because it is so, when you're going into this movie, like, really prepare yourself. Like, you are not watching a classic slasher.
Right.
You are just with this, like you said, for the most part, with this dude. But I loved that. I loved it. I wish I could feel more original in saying it just felt fresh.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it was like, oh, okay. Because I do rewatch all the Friday movies, all the sequels all the time. So like, I already have that. I need something different. And I got that with this movie, which is a lot of fun.
Good.
What about you?
Yeah. No, I loved it. And it's funny because I saw it in the theater, and then I watched it last night, obviously, on TV, on Shudder. And so seeing it in the theater, and this is going to sound like a dig, but I don't mean it that way at all. Seeing it in the theater, it was very much like an art house kind of picture. Mm. And then when I watched it on Shudder last night, I was on my TV in my living room. It felt almost like a 90s direct to video kind of thing, and I mean that in a good way, because it just felt like, because it was like different and everything, but like everything seemed sharper. I don't know if it was like the projection on the screen versus like whatever fucking frame rate or whatever your TV plays it at, but everything felt like more crisp and more sharp. Like it was almost shot on video, kind of like those direct to video things back in the 90s and stuff. And so it had a kind of a different feel. And I thought that was really cool, because I was like, oh, this seems like a low budget direct to video kind of thing.
At home grunginess to it. Like, I like that.
But it was neat. So I liked it both times that I've seen it. And we are getting a sequel. So there will probably be another rewatch before seeing the new one when it eventually comes out.
Yeah, I feel like this franchise is kind of, because you said it's like the way they framed it was like you're basically watching a sequel in a franchise that doesn't exist. So I feel like we're inevitably maybe going to get like the prequel.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Be kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have to say, I have read some opinions from people about where they stand on certain scenes and sequences, and like where the movie might deviate a little bit from the kind of like initial like framework of how the movie is set up with this whole like POV thing. I'm not really going to voice too much of an opinion on what I think about that. I think the movie is great as it is. But I definitely think I really appreciate the commitment to the bit, so to speak. Yeah. When they kind of just like stick to that kind of established style. So yeah, I don't. So if there is a sequel, I hope that they stay with that. If not, go even deeper into like, I want this to be this. I want this movie and this franchise to be this style, and I hope they never feel the need or the compulsion or impulsion to change. And that's it. That's all I say about that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, are you ready to head to Northern Ontario and take a walk in the woods?
Which I think is supposed to be New York or Georgia or no, isn't it supposed to be, because they said White Plains, which makes me think of New York. But then I got the impression that this was like, what is...
Well, I think it is supposed to be Ontario.
Is it supposed to be Ontario?
I think so.
Okay. Maybe I misheard someone.
Well, it's funny because they reshot like 70 to 80% of this movie.
What? Why?
There was a couple of reasons. Number one, the main actor who was playing Johnny, something happened to him, like he got sick or had some kind of medical thing, and so he couldn't go on. And so then they replaced the actor, but because we're following so much of him, they were finding it difficult to cut the two together because their movements were like different, and you could tell. So that was one reason, but also the location where they were shooting, he wanted it to feel, the director, Chris Nash, wanted it to feel like the woods in Northern Ontario where he grew up, but wherever they were shooting didn't feel like that. And so they moved the location to a different part of Canada and shot there. And so with those two things, they ended up shooting like he said, like between 70 to 80% of the movie.
Can you imagine
was reshot?
Because this is like a low budget horror movie.
Yeah. So it was a low budget movie. They were working with Shudder and IFC. And,
already. So initially they had, I see. Okay.
And so like they were apparently very supportive of the crew. They like scaled the crew way down. They took like, they used a lot of their own resources. They pulled in like every favor they could to like reshoot this thing. And there's some scenes that we'll talk about as we go through, but like some things that they were trying to do originally that they had time to think about and kind of rework and rethink how to do certain things that ended up being a lot better in the reshoot than they were going to be originally in the first thing. So it worked out, I would say. I mean, they had a lot of success with this. And so at the time, it probably seemed like the end of the fucking world. And then,
I'm like, I'm having like secondhand stress just from hearing that.
Yeah.
It's hard enough to make a movie to then have to shoot more than half of it. Or reshoot more than half of it. They did that actually on funny enough, on a movie that inspired this movie, or a franchise that inspired this movie, on Friday the 13th 6, Jason Lives. They recast Jason, because it just didn't fit. And if you watch it, you can actually see there's some scenes. I think it was the director spoke about this in a commentary or some interview. And they mentioned you can actually see the fit of Jason's outfit is different because the actor that they got is different.
Okay.
So it goes to show that like their intuition in A Violent Nature to just reshoot it instead of just recast and cut it together was good. So
what you're saying is in Friday the 13th Part 6, you can see the two different Jasons.
So that's what I've been told. I don't know if I've ever really. I don't know if it's that noticeable.
Gotcha.
And for all I know, I could be mixing it up with another one, but I'm pretty positive it was 6. Jason Lives, because I'm specifically remembering them referencing a scene. I think it's the one where he goes and kills the paintballers.
Oh, okay.
And I think they said you can notice it there. I don't know. We're not here to talk about Friday the 13th. Yeah. I'm not. Well, you act like I have like a Jason expert, and I just have a Friday the 13th memorabilia and toys in my office.
Danny, what's that behind you?
Jason.
All right, let's head to Northern Ontario and meet Johnny. Okay, so Danny, this was your pick for our masked up triple feature. Could you please read the IMDb synopsis for In a Violent Nature?
I forgot to open it.
God damn it. You and Casey are never prepared.
No, usually
with
I have
this.
that all like ready to go, and then usually I don't. All right. According to IMDb, the synopsis for In a Violent Nature is as follows. When a locket is removed from a collapsed fire tower in the woods that entombs the rotting corpse of Johnny, a vengeful spirit spurred on by a horrific 70-year-old crime. I've never heard spurred on. His body is resurrected and becomes hellbent on retrieving it.
Okay. I watch with the subtitles on or with captions on, just because I've just gotten used to it. And
which is funny because he doesn't he doesn't talk. There's not a lot of talking.
But during that opening scene, the dudes are talking off screen, and we find out that one of the characters' names is Aaron. Have you ever seen the name Aaron spelled EHREN?
I have, actually. That's funny. Aaron Kruger, who wrote a bunch of horror, funny enough, Kruger, not related to Freddy, as far as we know, has written a lot of horror movies, including Scream 3. And I want to say, in The Ring remake, the American remake. So I am sorry, but I have heard that spelling only because of this guy.
Okay. Well, I stand corrected.
Yeah.
I was about to call him a dork, but I won't do that anymore.
Maybe it was a direct reference to Aaron Kruger.
It could be.
Wait a minute. Is the screenwriter? Yes.
Is it time for the How I Met Your Monster conspiracy theory of the week?
I believe so. You better hit it.
You're telling me that NASA is going to kill the president of the United States with an earthquake?
Not exactly the kind of thing a Secret Service agent can just throw himself on top of. The whole Vietnam War was fought over a bet. Howard Hughes lost to Aristotle Onassis. This is our third issue this year. Conspiracy theory.
It's been a long time since we've done one of these.
I know, and this one is maybe not. It's not good.
They usually are good.
Yeah, they usually are, and this one we'll see. Now, Aaron Kruger, the screenwriter of many a horror movie, including the aforementioned Scream 3 and The Ring remake, is he the character? Is the character in a Violent Nature one of the people who is responsible for awakening Johnny from his supernatural slumber? Is he Aaron Kruger, the screenwriter? And if so, did the events of In a Violent Nature inspire Aaron Kruger to then go on to pursue a career in screenwriting as a horror screenwriter?
Well, I have some support of that theory, and I have some not support.
I only want to hear the support.
Dissupport.
Okay.
What is it? Unstable support.
Sure.
Unsupportiveness of that.
Yeah. You have a lack of support. I only want to hear the positive that boosts my theory.
So Aaron Kruger, who you think is this character in so many ways, is a screenwriter. Aaron in the movie is the one who tells the story of the White Plains slaughter at the campfire. So he's already a storyteller. So he already knows. But he does get his head split in half at the mouth. So,
but I feel like that's just like a metaphor for like how screenwriters in this industry are treated.
How they talk too much.
They talk too much, and they're like, you're running your mouth, you're splitting your mouth open.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like the weapon, whatever. What is an axe? What now? What's his mouth open?
The first thing he uses to split to the dude's mouth, the first weapon he has is like a hacksaw,
kind of like Hacksaw Ridge.
Yes,
Mel Gibson dealt with its own little pushback because of Mel Gibson's involvement. So maybe that's an even deeper metaphor for the studio system, kind of like hacksaw ridging the screenwriter's mouth when he's trying to tell a story, and they're like, we don't want the story, we just want to see the killer kill. So we're actually going to flip the script on this, so to speak, and instead of doing another slasher, we want to see no story. We want to see just the guy killing. We're gonna go so far as to follow him as though this were a nature documentary, and that's the movie we ended up getting. So
yeah, and I will say later during the yoga scene, it is on a cliff, but not really a cliff, more like a ridge.
See, and this is why you guys, when you're watching movies, it's not just enough to be entertained by it. You should be really dissecting every second. And a lot of people might think that you're kind of jumping the gun or reading too into it, or you're not. Everything means something, and don't let the haters gonna hate.
Yes.
So we're right. You're right. We got this. This movie means this is actually one of the most important movies in the horror genre, as far as I'm concerned.
And so this was, originally intended to act like a third or fourth installment of a franchise that doesn't exist. I think that franchise is Hacksaw Ridge.
Oh, I agree. Well,
written by Aaron Kruger.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's see. I'm going to find out who wrote. Was it Mel?
I don't know. I think
was it the Gib?
Was it Gib?
Was it old Gib? Old son of the Gib. It was written by Robert Schenken and Andrew Knight.
Okay. Night,
of course,
as in like Tuesday night from Nightmare on Elm Street 4.
Yep.
Freddy Krueger, Aaron Kruger, full circle.
Full circle. Aaron tells the story, and we're here, and we solved it. And I'm going to argue that this is one of the most, if not the most successful, How We Met Your Monster conspiracy theories of the week. I'm just sorry that we didn't have Casey here to support our theory.
Yes, because she's so supportive of most of our theories.
She loves these. Yeah. So I'm going to let's dedicate this theory to our own Casey Brewer. Casey,
that's right.
This one's for you.
Yep. 2 birds, 1 stone. Full circle.
2 birds, 1 stork.
2 storks.
Or no, was it 1 bird, 2? We did 1 stone, 2 storks.
Something like that. Yeah.
Something. You get it. If you're not following along, is it on us or is it on you?
Exactly.
Don't answer that.
Okay. So Johnny comes out of the ground. Like, I mean, since we are following him through this movie, like he's right at the beginning, we start seeing him. So we are introduced to our monster right out of the gate. Which, with that being said, I failed to mention our reveals for this movie. We have 7 official monster reveals and 5 honorable mentions for this movie in A Violent Nature.
Yeah, this one was a tough one to lock in because we're following the monster. But we put our brains together. We figured it out.
But our rules are our guidelines for counting reveals is whenever the audience is revealed, or whenever the monster is revealed to the audience, or whenever the monster is revealed to characters in the movie.
Yes.
And so that's how we kind of pick our reveals. But
it's our system.
So we had an honorable mention right at the beginning when the teens are talking about Johnny at the site of the old fire tower. And then our first official reveal is Johnny
rising from the grave, which happens because one of the characters in that honorable mention, when they're discussing the story, is Troy takes the locket.
Yes.
That is essentially sealing and holding Johnny in his tomb.
Right.
His makeshift tomb.
And so now we're following Johnny. He's kind of waking up. He moves a little bit slow. I mean, he moves slow through the whole thing, but a little bit slower now because he's just waking up. He's stretching. You know what I mean? And he hears like the horn honking and he goes towards this house. So the park ranger is there talking to or fighting with this man who lives at this house, who is like setting bear traps all around the area. And the ranger's like, you can't do that. Like it's like public place or something, like someone's going to step on him. But I didn't notice this the first time. It was on my second watch that I noticed when Johnny goes up to them, he immediately goes for the park ranger who is driving away, but he like goes to the ranger. And then he's like, well, he's gone. I'm going to go for this other guy. And we'll find out later why that is.
I did not catch up that.
It's just like a little bit like he walks, like the guy goes in the house and he like walks towards where the guy's driving away. And I was like, oh, it's because of.
He has this agenda, but
he's got an agenda.
Savvy to it.
Right.
Fun.
So then our second reveal is right here. He meets the number one motherfucker.
Yeah. And we call him that because the whole thing is he's looking for this locket. Johnny finds a locket and he's like, oh, you fucker, you stole it.
Yeah.
And then we, of course, find out that this locket, which a very quick kind of like brief picture-in-picture flashback shows us that it has to do with this maternal connection that he has. Literally, it's this connection with his mother. But this one says number one motherfucker on it.
Yeah. And, which that flashback was really cool because, just in general, this has a very Friday the 13th vibe, like we've been talking about. And that flashback was really cool because it reminded me of like Jason Takes Manhattan, where they're on the boat and she like looks in the thing and you see like the edges of the screen are kind of like foggy or misty, but then there's like a memory playing in the thing and then it fades away. I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like, it's just like a little nod.
Think of that. Oh, that's so smart. All right. Love that.
Yeah. So after that, we get this great, like when he kills the number one motherfucker guy, there's a great transition from like his hand going up to his face. And then it cuts to his hand going for the locket. But now his hand is just like covered in blood and shit. And
love it.
It's really fucking cool transition. Then we follow Johnny for a little bit, and then we kind of break from our kind of template here of following Johnny as we're listening to these people talk around a campfire, but we're no longer in Johnny's perspective anymore.
Yeah, I was surprised by this. This caught me off guard.
Yeah, it was a little
because I wasn't sure what was motivating it in terms of like the structure of the story for the movie. But
because I mean, it would have been cool. And like, ultimately, again, like I said, like I love this movie. So like anything that we say here is just kind of like whatever. But if they just stayed with Johnny and he was just like in the woods and we just heard them tell this story, like the whole conversation that they were having, we just heard it in the distance a little bit. Yeah. He was like
really
right there.
Love that. Yeah. Because it almost makes it scarier because we've already said this, but like we already understand the general like layout of how these movies play. Like it's the kids around the campfire telling the story. We've never really seen, although we may have considered what it may have been like in the woods of where is Jason when all of this kind of stuff is happening? Is he just listening? Is he like there? And in this case, he is, or Johnny is at least. Yeah, I would have loved that. I would have loved.
Jason's like next to him, like
They just bump into each other. He's like, sorry.
it's like that scene in Billy Madison where they're about to get on the bus, and Chris Farley's like, "That Veronica Vaughn is one piece of ace, huh? I know from experience, dude." And he nudges him with his elbow. That's what I want to see. Like Jason come up to Johnny and be like, "Huh? Those
Johnny's
kids at the
like-
campfire, we're gonna get them, huh?" Johnny's like, "I
he's
know
the
from
cool," and he's like, "No."
experience.
No, you don't.
Oh man. But yeah, that was it was kind of jarring to be like, oh, now we're out of it already.
They do that a few times in this movie where, yeah, I guess I don't understand the motivation for it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt the movie. It doesn't make it worse. It still like exists within the kind of, I don't know, like structure that we're kind of used to. So it's not like I don't know.
Well, I was saying at the beginning of this episode that the director was inspired by things like Gus Van Sant's Elephant, which also does that. You're following this kid through the whole movie until like 3/4 of the way in or closer to the end. And then it switches to the antagonists of the story. And then you're following them for a little bit. So that's kind of like this same thing where, we'll find out later in the end that it switches to the last survivor, which is jarring in itself. But maybe that was just like another inspirational thing from movies like Elephant that kind of do that same thing. I don't know.
Yeah. I hope like the cynic in me is thinking it's like a studio note to be like, we need something a little more traditional here to make sure our audience sticks with us. And I really hope that's not the case, because I think the strength of this movie is when it is committing to this more unusual kind of approach to a slasher.
Mm-hmm. But you never know. I mean, IFC and Shudder were the companies behind this, and it was kind of...
They seem pretty open to, I don't know, filmmakers kind of doing their thing.
Experimentation and stuff like that. And, yeah. But got no answers there. But our next honorable mention is coming up, and it's our second kill of the movie. Aaron, could be Aaron Kruger. We don't know. His face is cut in half with the hacksaw. It's an honorable mention for us and not an official reveal because he never actually meets Johnny. Yeah. He's just like standing at the tree, smoking a joint, and then all of a sudden his head comes cut in half.
Too quick.
Wouldn't that be fucking wild? You're just like standing there, and then all of a sudden your head's split in half, and you're like,
"That's crazy." Is that how if you were in a slasher and maybe you were fated to die by someone like Johnny or Jason, would you want the chase scene and maybe a potentially excruciating death, or do you just want to go out quick?
Well, he didn't really go quick. He kind of like was alive for a bit, and he like kind of had to work his saw in before his head cut in half. So it was still excruciating. Cool. I think part of me wants to be like, oh, just don't show me, just get it over with and I'm done.
Yeah.
But also if you see him, then there's a potential that you would have a chance to survive.
So you're telling me there's a chance.
You're telling me there's a chance. A little Dumb and Dumber reference for Casey.
Who's never done those on the show.
No. Once he kills Aaron, he takes his body to this kind of like a history center, like a visitor center, I guess, to find his mask. One of the things I thought was cool was that he throws Aaron's head through the window to like break the glass.
As you do.
And Aaron's head, like the top of his head, lands directly looking towards the camera, like right in the light. And I wonder, when filming this movie, did they do that multiple times until it landed like perfectly? Or was it like a visual effects shot? Because there are some VFX shots in this movie that you don't realize are VFX shots, which I'll talk about when we get there. But I wonder if that was
there had to have been some form of manipulation.
Yeah, because it lands too perfect, like right where it needs to be. And yeah, it's. I mean, even
I don't know if it's as far as like, I doubt they had the time and money to spend on like like Stanley Kubrick famously rolled the ball to Danny in The Shining over and over again until it was perfect.
Oh, really? Okay.
I can't imagine a shoot like this where you're like constantly fighting against time and a lack of budget.
Yeah.
To be like, take 71. Let's roll that head again in the off chance it is exactly the way we want it to be.
Yeah, you're right.
But I could, I mean, trust me, I've been wrong before. I'm usually wrong. But yeah.
Well, Chris, you know, speaking of VFX and chopped off heads and stuff, Chris Nash, the writer director of this, was like predominantly a prosthetics guy. Like he does like he was sense. Like the lead special effects dude on Psycho Goreman.
Oh,
yeah, and that's where they started talking about this movie, this idea that he had, and they took it from there. But they were working on Psycho Goreman, and which I never finished that movie. I gotta check that out.
It's not like this one.
No. And so in our third honorable mention, Johnny finds his firefighter mask.
Yeah.
Which apparently they had a lot of trouble with that mask in filming because you can't see out of it really. Like there's no peripheral vision, and him like walking through the woods. There would be like
the movie, but it's just tripping all the
time. Well, they were saying that like some of the most dangerous things in the movie in filming it was him just walking through the woods because of like the uneven terrain and stuff. And he had this big helmet on that he couldn't see. And sometimes because they were behind him, sometimes they would just have a mask with a hole cut out of the middle so that he could see.
That's smart. Cause you got to fake it.
That's you know, they said like he would be like, he's just like Johnny and just like his just walks. And so there'd be like branches in his face and he would just like close his eyes so that the branches would just like go over his face.
They're like, keep going. It looks really cool. Trust us. Are you okay?
He's like getting smacked in the face with all these things. But yeah, when he goes to get his mask, I love that instead of just like breaking the glass and grabbing it, he picks up Aaron's body and just throws it into the glass case and just shatters. I thought that was fun.
It's very resourceful. Yeah, very much. This is the famous, if we're going to keep pulling references from a Friday the 13th movie, this is the Jason Friday the 13th 3D, where Jason finally gets his famous hockey mask.
Yeah.
I would argue this is actually a much cooler way to give a character his iconic look. Because in Friday the 13th, he just like finds the hockey mask that Shelley, the prankster, brings with him on this trip to just wear as a prank. That's the prank. Is like, I got a hockey mask.
Yeah, because like, you know, at that point, like if you go back to like when Friday the 13th 3 came out and it wasn't like so iconic, that was like just a hockey mask.
It's like
why would Shelley bring it?
Yeah. This one much better.
Yeah. But this brings us to our lake sequence, which was very cool. What did you think about this? Did you enjoy this sequence?
I loved it. Well, I loved it because I'm trying to think of a way to like say this without constantly going back to like a Friday the 13th reference.
Oh, do it. I mean, this is clearly a huge inspiration on this movie.
You get so many scenes in the Friday movies where like Jason just is randomly in the water, or you open the scene on a character going swimming, which they should never do in these scenarios. And of course, Jason's like already in the water. In this case, because we're in Johnny's perspective, we have this super slow burn, which is one of my favorite sequences where he's just like walking casually into the water and you see these, it's the two characters or there's one.
It's two. And then the one leaves.
And then they leave. Okay. And she's just like, they're going into the water and it's completely off screen and it feels so like inconsequential, but because you know who Johnny is, obviously it sets this different, there's a very different energy, but it somehow feels even more disturbing because you're kind of watching the inevitable take place without the benefit of like a traditional suspenseful setup, like with the music and the, like the unknown. You know, we've referenced that famous Alfred Hitchcock quote quite a bit on the show about like, you know, show the audience the bomb under the table. Right. Well, in this case, like the bomb has legs. We're like watching the bomb like set itself up, which is really fun. I really enjoyed this sequence quite a bit. They do cut, which is fine. It's it's purely subjective. They do cut to like a reverse angle to kind of show a closer. It still works. It's very effective, but it could have worked just as well if they had never even cut away from that wide shot from a distance.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think?
A couple things I want to note there that you said, like setting up with like a traditional suspense with like the music. This movie has no music until the credits. There's a song on the credits, but it's just nature. And two, I think Danny, you sent me like a Letterboxd review of this when you first watched it, where like a lady was saying that like they cut too much in this movie. Like they needed to draw out the scenes even more for like that slow burn kind of cinema that is a style that a lot of people are into. And I agree with that. I think I would have liked that too. But also I think these guys did a perfect job of blending, because you have to know your audience, right?
Totally.
And so you've got your slasher horror movie audience, and then you've got like your art house cinema audience, and you can't lean one too far into the other. So do I think some of these scenes could have been drawn out even longer and been cool? Yes, I do. But also like, I think they had to kind of walk that thin line of how far can we push it and still keep the attention of these other people who may not be into this kind of art house cinema. I'm not saying you have to, if you're a horror movie fan, you're not into art, but like, you know what I mean? Like there's two genres that they're mashing together. And I think,
it's a fine line to walk. You want to make everyone happy with everyone within that like context without selling out on your own idea.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you can sell out your own idea because it's yours, but you know what I mean? Like, so I agree with you. I think they did a really good job of balancing that. Which already was difficult because the approach they were taking was so untraditional.
Right.
So to still have it be as scary, if not scarier in some cases, and the way that they approach this, very kind of seasoned, tried and true kind of subgenre in horror, and make it feel original, is worthy of a nice little pat on the back, because they do a really good job. So I agree. I think the balancing act was difficult, but done very well. Very tasteful.
But speaking about this lake sequence in particular, this is one of those things I mentioned at the beginning that was changed over time with the original shoot versus the reshoot.
Gotcha.
So originally for this scene, they wanted to follow Johnny into the water, and you follow him as he walks along the bottom of the lake until he sees legs above him, and then he grabs them and brings her down.
Love it.
Right. That proved to be super hard to do. Right. So then after that, they were going to fly the camera over the lake as Johnny is walking. So he would be like, essentially be like right underneath the camera.
Gotcha.
You would be like following him across. But after some like logistical stuff of like, he said, the director said like even like a piece of equipment that they rented, like not showing up. And so they they couldn't do it. They ended up doing it this way, which is actually a series of visual effects shots as he goes into the water. And then they blend that with scenes of just the lake.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
And then you can't tell because he can't be under the water for that long.
Yeah.
Right. So they use visual effects shots, and you can never tell the difference because it's so subtle.
I think their restraints kind of help them in this case.
Yeah. But like the visual effects, it's not like, it's different than CGI because it's not like they, like these were actual shots of the water that they just like superimposed over so that he could not be under the water forever.
There's nothing wrong with visual effects or computer generated imagery. It should add to it. The problem is sometimes in movies it kind of takes away from it, or it can be a little distracting.
Right. They use it as like, they don't use it as a tool to help them. They use it as like a tool to replace.
Totally.
And that doesn't really work. So
no, sir.
But this is our third official reveal. Brody is the girl who is swimming in the lake. She gets pulled under and
she did,
I don't know, essentially drowned, I guess. And then her body kind of floats up to the top, and Johnny walks out of the water to head to the cliff. for
Hacksaw Ridge.
The Hacksaw Ridge scene. The Hacksaw Ridge, the Mel Gibson makes a pretzel. Mel Gibson takes a job at Auntie Anne's.
Gibson's Pretzels.
Gibson's Pretzels. We put that on like a t-shirt, and it's like such an obscure reference that like nobody would get it. Gibson's Pretzels. But yeah, so Danny, being someone like yourself who is not the biggest fan of extreme gore, what did you think of this kill at the cliff?
So where I stand on gore is very much like it depends on the context of it. So
okay,
I have watched and I have enjoyed in the like Hostel movies, but I wouldn't say I necessarily had fun with them because they're very gloomy, and they are kind of commenting on that, like the savage nature of man, but without any of like, I don't know. There's a difference between like a Hostel and a Scream. There's a tone difference.
Oh, absolutely.
There's a reason why I love the Scream movies so much, or the Friday the 13th movies, because Jason has some pretty crazy kills, but I still watch it and I laugh. It's like that classic B80s horror movie aesthetic and gore. It just, it's fake, so it's fun, and you kind of know what went into it. It wasn't made to be hyper realistic, so it's easier to laugh at it, I guess.
Sure.
This one, to me fell in that same like kind of ballpark. So I actually had a lot of fun with it, because it is so playful despite it being really dark. And I was so I was so in on this, I don't know, like just like new way of doing a slasher that I was having so much fun. I felt so involved that when they got to this, you're waiting for it. You're, especially coming off of such a simple death, great death, but simple. In the last one with Brody, I very much appreciated it. And also I had a lot of fun because I watched this with my family, my in-laws, and mostly with my sister-in-law. And I was like, I don't know if they're going to like this. But I'd kind of set them up for like what the movie was. So I think they were like appreciating it because we were talking a lot through the movie, like commenting on like, oh, that's fun. Oh, this is neat. Oh, I get what they're doing. So when they got to this, I had like the movie theater experience where we were like, oh my God, like talking through it and just like screaming. So I had a lot of fun. So that was my long form response to your answer is that, or my shorthand, I guess, is I had a lot of fun. It was really cool.
Okay.
What about you? Did you?
Well, yeah, I loved it. I was so not expecting it. We've talked about this on this show before. And I think the last time we talked about this, I was actually talking about In a Violent Nature when I saw it in the theater. And I was telling you guys that like, there's a handful of times I can remember being in the theater and my jaw dropping and just like having my mouth was just like wide open. And this was one of them. Like it happened and I was just like, my jaw hit the floor. I was like, what the fuck did I just watch? Oh my God.
It just keeps like escalating. This is still going.
Yeah.
And it did win, this kill won Best Kill at the this year's Fangoria Chainsaw Awards.
Oh, I think that fully deserved that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we call it Hacksaw Ridge, right? We're calling this this location Hacksaw Ridge.
Yeah.
It makes me so mad that she didn't just slide down that hill.
Yeah. Or like she yoga her way out of it. Or
she
something,
like looks she stops at the edge and then she's like, oh, I can't go down there. I'll die. Basically, like she can't go any further. Like it is like a sloped thing. It's not even straight down. And there's water at the bottom. Like, why did you not go down the hill?
I know. If only she knew what was waiting for her.
Right.
When old Gibson got her and pretzeled her.
Johnny Gibson's pretzels.
Pretzel maker.
But this scene actually, this was pretty cool to learn this. This was shot over 4 days. So it was shot over 4 days and it was shot over months. So they would like shoot a day and then like a month would go by and they would shoot some more. They would go back to the location and shoot some more. It involved 4 different bodies, including the actress or a stand-in or even just like puppets of like,
and
just
then
like a fake
corpse.
and an actual dead
Who
body.
died,
Yes.
who just conveniently died that way. Like, we have this corpse. She died the same way she dies in the movie. Should we use it?
Yeah. That's
This is-
convenient. She died the same
perfect.
way. Let's
Gonna
use
say it
that.
was on budget. We had to do all these reshoots.
And the last thing I thought was cool was that super great insert shot of her spine like popping out of the back of her neck. That was so gross. That was the very last shot of the whole movie that they shot.
Wow.
And they shot that scene, that insert shot, in one of the producers' backyards.
Oh, that's so funny.
And it's just like, it's funny how like you don't notice it. It all just cuts together so seamlessly. A scene or a death, one death that was shot over so long of a time. It all just is seamless. I thought that was really cool.
That is cool. Yeah, pretty iconic. I feel like that's what this movie is, aside from like, you know, the POV element.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what this movie is known for. The yoga head belly pull pretzel scene.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's so inventive and it's just really cool.
Yeah.
So that was our number 4 official reveal, the yoga scene when Aurora is her name, meets Johnny at the cliff at Hacksaw Ridge. So now as we follow Johnny a little bit more, we get into our next honorable mention where he's headed back towards the cabin and some of the characters are having an argument and they throw the car keys and Johnny picks them up, sees a little toy car on the keychain, and he sits down, takes off his mask and plays with the car. And in this honorable mention, because we've already met Johnny essentially, but now we're seeing his face for the first time.
We're also seeing how surprisingly innocent he is.
Yes. That was great. That was one thing that was great at the beginning during the campfire where he says, you know, he's telling the story and he says, Johnny was slow. And the one kid says like, what do you mean slow? And he's like trying to get him to say the R word. And I really loved that they didn't. Like he's just like, fuck you. I'm not saying that. You're an asshole. Let's move on. I thought that was cool. I was like, oh yeah, good for you for not.
Because there's a history in slasher movies where there's a little bit of insensitivity. Yeah. Especially in some of the older ones. Yeah. Maybe nowadays people are a little bit more aware. A little more sensitive to other people, you know.
Right.
You can kill people, guys, in very inventive ways, but let's cool it on like, let's not be assholes.
Yeah. But he ends up smashing the toy car, and he's like, "I'm gonna go kill some people." So he heads back towards the cabin, puts a stick in the car so it lays on the horn, and then he walks around the building to. Love that. He's very smart. Like he's just very like he has like a plan. He doesn't just like bust in the front door. He's like, I'm going to fuck with these guys. But here's our 5th official reveal. As he walks around the house, Evan sees Johnny out the window. And it's a really quick shot because, you know, we're following Johnny around the house and on the side of the frame, you see him pass the window and Evan's looking out being like, what the fuck? Who is this guy? Mm-hmm. But so this is actually a series of official reveals because we got number 5 right there. Number 6, he goes right up to Troy and tries to attack him with the axe, but Troy turns around, fights back, and Johnny actually gets him in the leg. Meanwhile, Evan comes out, shoots at him, and they have a chance to get away. But not for long because Johnny gets up and throws the axe, kills Evan, and then smashes Troy's head in with a rock.
Love it.
And that was really cool because that was seamless again. Yeah. Where you know, you're watching this actor playing Troy crawl away, but then Johnny picks up this rock and it's almost like, how did they cut that together? Yeah. You know what I mean? It's because it's seamless.
I think that's the best use of effects, digital effects like this, where it is seamless in a movie that already, you know, is quote unquote low budget or on the lower budget side of things, because it's that, like you said, it's that much more impressive. If you see it in something like this, it stands out, but in a way that is not like, the effects are noticeable. It's just that you wonder how the fuck they pulled it off.
Yeah. Yeah. Which we'll see again here with the log splitter scene. It's another thing where it's like, how did they do that?
So good.
But after he kills Troy, almost immediately we fall into our 7th official reveal. Yeah. Where Chris and Colt come back on the 4-wheeler and there's some argument about like what's going on, and then they actually meet Johnny, who's right there. He like throws the axe at Chris, and Colt's like, watch out. And she like moves at the last second. And that was pretty cool. But then they get on the 4-wheeler and drive away.
And we do find out some very important information here is the fact that Chris has Johnny's locket. So now this thing that Johnny's been after this whole time, this symbol, but
That's
also
right.
this, it's a locket, but also locked him into his grave.
Ooh.
And he's on the hunt for it. And Chris has it. So now he is on the hunt for Chris to get the locket.
Yep. And they go find the park ranger, and Johnny follows them. And I'm so mad at Colt for just like, okay, well, I'm getting ahead of myself, but we get to this scene. They're talking to the ranger about Johnny, and he's like, why did you take the locket? Like, you fuckers woke him up. Like, you weren't supposed to do that. And Johnny comes in, and then this is our last reveal on the list, but it's an honorable mention. The ranger sees Johnny, and it's not an official reveal because Johnny has already met the ranger 10 years prior.
It's a twist.
Because the ranger was the one who put him in the ground.
Yeah.
And so the ranger's being so smart. He's dealt with Johnny before. He shoots him. He says he's not dead. He's just slowed down. Wrap those chains around him. Colt's like, I can't do it. Like, why? Fuck you, Colt. And he says, I'm going to pass this gun to you in 3 seconds, and we're going to switch. Why would you not back up? Why would you not back up? You're right there.
Well, we kind of talked about this in Hush, which we kind of walked back on. At least I walked back on after I mentioned it, because it's like there are those horror movie cliches, I guess, where it's like,
okay,
take the gun away, take the weapon away from the thing, don't stand there, don't. But the whole point is that a lot of these characters aren't savvy, like they're not in the horror movies. So
yeah,
but then we are living in like a post-Scream world where characters have seen the movies, so you can't help but have that kind of like meta perspective on it.
Yeah.
So I ignore what I just said. You fucking idiot.
Oh no, I totally get it. Like I absolutely get it. Because we're the ones watching it, and
but yeah, you're right. It's just like common sense, like especially for him to like, I don't know. Oh wait, no,
because he knows that he's not dead. He knows he's going to wake up.
Yeah.
Why would you? I don't know.
Yeah, he has this whole plan. He like knows exactly how to dispose of Johnny. He says something like, you have to bury him at the fire tower. And like, so the mythos is kind of expanding a little bit. He's still like, it's frustrating.
Yeah. So he passes the gun to Colt, but Johnny wakes up, grabs the gun. There's a struggle between him and the ranger, and he ends up like, I don't know, does he like break the ranger's back or something?
Yeah.
So he's like
incapacitated,
alive. Yeah. But he can't move. Yeah. But he still can feel, and oh my God. And he puts his body in a log splitter. I'll say that when I saw this in the theater, I was a little disappointed, because I'm thinking log splitter splits it
Split him in half.
He would have put him on the thing and went right down his, right for his fucking taint, and just right down the middle.
Yep.
Didn't happen, but that's okay. I mean, it was still cool. He cuts his arm off first, and then he goes and cuts his head off. But
if you are listening to this, and I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm about to, if you haven't seen the movie Freaky, there is a very satisfying kill. And I'll just tell you right now, it's this, but with a different tool, a similar tool. And someone may or may not, maybe they get split in half, maybe they don't. It's very satisfying.
I remember that. That was a good scene.
So that's it. We've had all of our monster reveals.
We've had all of our monster reveals. Yeah. So Johnny and Chris and Colt take off. They have this like elaborate plan to like lead him back to the fire tower and set him on fire and do all this stuff. And they've got the gasoline, and but Colt is just like a fucking moron. And he like comes up right behind Johnny and yells something at him, and Johnny just like turns around without blinking an eye and just like fucking smashes his head in with the axe, and then goes to town and just keeps smashing. And in that moment, instead of doing something crazy, Chris just like sets down the gasoline, puts the locket over the top of the can, and just runs away.
Which is like that perfect subversion to your kind of like everything you're expecting based off of like what you've anticipated. Based on other slashers, everything is kind of like reversed for the most part. Like literally the perspective's reversed, and then like how people carry out their plans are reversed. And even at the end when she's talking with that woman who rescues her, it's like it's kind of like a will they won't they, or isn't she kind of scene where it's like, wait, is this what's going on? But then you find out that like we've been kind of wired and programmed to kind of expect certain things to play out, but it doesn't, which almost in a way makes it even scarier. Because you're like, wow, this movie's really not playing by the rules of the genre. So it could be anything.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really effective.
Oh, totally. Yeah, because we switch that perspective and she gets rescued by this lady in a truck who is actually, you'll know this better than I do,
Mel Gibson.
Is actually Mel Gibson.
That's Annie or whatever whatever the pretzel maker is.
Auntie Anne.
Auntie Anne's. That's her.
No, you know who it is, Danny? The actress is Lauren Marie Taylor. Do you know who she played?
I don't.
She played the character of Vicky in Friday the 13th Part 2.
Stop.
No, I'm not going to stop.
Stop it.
Okay, fine. It's Auntie Anne.
Oh, okay.
It's Mel Gibson in drag playing Auntie Anne.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
How did I not know her name was Vicky? Vicky's one of my favorites. She's such a sweet character in Friday the 13th Part 2.
Yeah. That's who the lady is that picks her up in the Jeep or the truck, whatever it is.
That is so freaking cool.
Yeah. Isn't that a fun little Easter egg?
Mm-hmm.
A little a cameo, or I don't know what you call it.
What would be the horror equivalent of an Easter egg for like a Halloween?
It's a jack-o'-lantern
egg.
A rotten egg. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good little rotten egg.
Yeah, there you go. Rotten.
But yeah, that whole scene, she's like talking about like animals and like her husband who was attacked by a bear and then he got out alive, and like animals just sometimes just like, well, she says animals don't get too hung up on reason. And it's kind of just like Johnny's out there just.
So my read on this was that Johnny is the one who attacked her husband, and that we're supposed to believe it's like it leaves it up to debate. Like, was he attacked by an animal or was he attacked by Johnny? And because he never saw, talk about Meet Your Monster, because he never actually saw it.
Oh,
maybe he was actually attacked by Johnny.
Oh,
that was my read on it.
Okay. I just took it as that like they were just comparing like an animal attack to Johnny being animalistic. But okay.
I think it was, but I think you could read it as both, because I think that's why the driver was significant, because she is kind of watching this girl being like, oh shit, Johnny's back, you know,
okay.
And
okay. Yeah.
I may be wrong. That was
my, well, no, that's a good take on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the whole time, like we've been following Johnny. Now we switched to this survivor that we're following. And so the whole time you're just expecting Johnny to come out somewhere.
Yeah. I thought she was going to be like in on it, or like, and now you're dead, and she's going to kill her and be like, here, Johnny.
Oh, that would have been crazy.
Or like the whole, like, you know, like you're local or you're outsiders trespassing on our land. Like,
yeah,
you fucked up our legend. You know, he was safe. So now we're going to like use you as bait so that we could get Johnny back into the ground. That's right. Like my brain was going.
Okay.
I was wrong.
Yeah. But that's a good read on it though, for sure.
Yeah. Because then you think you're going to
go back and
you don't see Johnny anymore. All we get is that it, again, very like felt reminiscent of the original Halloween, is you end on just like a bunch of like static shots on the woods, and you see like all these maybe like scenes, areas that we've seen before. And then it ends. And then it's like, where the fuck is Johnny? And that's the point. It is very, it's funny. Yeah. This movie is like a Friday the 13th homage, but really it's kind of a Halloween homage.
Sure.
From like the POV and everything.
And like and he's got the locket now because the locket is off of the gas can. So what's he doing? He's just out there now.
Yeah.
He's just, He didn't put himself back in the ground.
No, yeah.
You know?
He's just, I mean, the movie, for all we know, the sequel could pick up right where this one ends. That'd be kind of fun.
Oh man, I'm interested to see what they do. What they do with that. But that's it. That's In a Violent Nature.
That's the movie.
That's the whole thing. Real good. Like we said previously, it's very divisive. Like some people loved this movie, some people hated it. I don't think there is a like in the middle, like, it was okay. I think it was like, oh, it was great, or oh, I didn't like it.
And we're clearly in the we thought we hated it camp.
We thought we hated it. we thought we hated it, but it's actually we love it.
We loved it.
Now it is time to discuss and pick our favorite reveals in this movie.
What's going on here?
I don't see anything anywhere.
That's how they get you. They're under the goddamn ground.
Okay, speed round recap. Now, do you want me to include on this round here? Do you want me to include honorable mentions, or do you just wanted to go official reveals?
Let's just go for officials.
Officials.
Just trying to shorten official. Officials.
All right, speed round recap. Here we go. Number 1, he's coming out of his cage and he's doing just fine. Number 2, number 1.
Wait, is that a reference to the Killers?
Yeah. Number 2 is number 1 motherfucker. Number 3, and you'll be saddened to know that I don't have fun titles for all of them. Number 3 is Brody in the Lake. Number 4 is the yoga scene. Number 5, Evan sees Johnny out the window. Number 6, Johnny attacks Troy. And number 7, Chris and Colt on the 4-wheeler meet Johnny. What is your favorite reveal in A Violent Nature?
So a few years ago, a movie came out. It was kind of a surprise awards favorite. Not to say it was bad, but there was some contention in regard to, someone involved with the movie. So it wasn't a favorite generally among most people, but in this context, it was my favorite, and it's the Hacksaw Ridge scene. And that's a deep, long,
I was like, tell me you're talking
dive.
about Hacksaw Ridge. Please tell me you're talking about Hacksaw Ridge.
So yeah, where am I? What is it? The yoga head, belly pool, pretzel, Mel Gibson, Hacksaw Ridge scene. That was my favorite. I mean, it's kind of hard to beat. I mean, it's not. I mean,
God,
I could go back and like the lake scene was just so cool. Or like, there aren't any bad introductions to Johnny in this. I mean, even like just like the, him coming out of his grave is so cool. And like the way it's shot, the way it's not the classic, it's shot like it's a nature documentary compared to like, the aggressive, hand shooting out of the grave and all that classic imagery. It's done very, it's in itself, the way it's shot is subversive, which is really cool. But I'm still going to stick with a fan favorite. And I'm not just talking about pretzels. I'm talking about the way she dies and looks like a pretzel. How about you, Zach?
Yeah, it's tough to beat that yoga scene. I would have to say that's my go-to as well. But the lake scene is a close, very close second. It's such a simple kill, but it's just...
Well, it's two very different flavors. The pretzel scene is so in your face and aggressive, whereas the lake scene literally does everything it can to pull back from the carnage. Even the kill doesn't have any real like visceral carnage.
Oh yeah,
But both are just as effective, which is a testament to the movie. Yeah.
Yep.
What are you going to go with?
I'm going with the yoga hacksaw pretzel Mel Gibson scene.
Yeah,
Mel Gibson. That's got to be it.
Okay.
Okay. So now it is time for a segment that we like to call The Real Monster.
Run, run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man.
You're a monster.
I'm not the monster here. You are. You and the rest of that fairy tale trash poisoning my perfect world. Now tell me, where are the others?
Eat me.
Okay, so Danny, who is your real monster for In a Violent Nature?
People who pick up hitchhikers.
Interesting.
Let them die. No, I'm kidding. No, people who don't pick up hitchhikers in horror movies specifically, because in those cases, it's usually someone like, it's always that iconic scene of them like screaming for help, and there's always that one car that's like, you hear
like swerves out of the way,
like so aggressively not going to help this person who's like covered in blood. To help them out, at least slow down and be like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah. Okay.
How about you?
I've got 3.
Okay.
I've got Colt for being a little bitch. I hate that he does. Like,
you hate bitches.
I hate bitches, and I hate
Zach's
Colt specifically.
Famous for that, guys. If you're new to this show, Zach if you're a bitch, he doesn't like you.
I generally like most people, except if you're a little bitch.
He generally likes bitches, but lately not so much.
I've got the number one motherfucker's house.
Oh yeah,
just like being gross and like it's just nasty. But I think my number one real monster is number one motherfucker himself. As Johnny is walking up to the house and the park ranger is honking his horn to get the dude's attention. Dude comes out of his house and says, quote, "You got no patience for a man trying to pinch off a piece."
Ugh.
And I gagged when he said that. Like, that is so fucking gross. I hate that terminology. Like, pinching a loaf. Oh my God.
Zach's the real monster of this episode.
I can't believe I even said it. That's so nasty.
So foul.
Ew. So so that's the real
is usually always a real monster on the How We Met Your Monster podcast.
Yeah.
Horrible.
So that's my real monsters for In a Violent Nature.
Those are good. Those are truly despicable.
All right, now it's our last segment of the show titled "Would You Survive?" Johnny in a Violent Nature.
And here we go.
Dude, no. No. We had talked earlier about whether you'd like to just get killed. If you were in a slasher movie, would you like to just get killed without seeing, or would you like to see your killer so maybe you have a chance to get away? I would lose.
Okay.
I would lose for sure.
I feel like my response is a little bit of a cheat. I said yes, I would survive.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Because to quote The Cabin in the Woods, the film,
quote, good one.
"Do not read the fucking Latin. Friends don't let friends steal supernatural totems." So I like to believe that the company in which I like to keep would hear this backstory, hear the Johnny lore, would see the totem, which is the locket, and would simply walk away and kumbaya our way through our little woodsy soiree.
Yeah.
And we would survive.
Yeah, that's good. Like they just,
Don't touch it.
Troy, he was like a fucking tool. Yeah.
This movie is also subtitled "The Fall of Troy."
What does he say in a Violent Nature? What does he say in Walk the Line? The guy who's supposed to be playing Jerry Lee Lewis says,
he's like, "You about to walk that line?"
He said, God gave us the great big apple. That's New York City.
Yeah, God gave us New York City.
God gave us the great big apple. See, and he said, don't touch it. Don't think about touching it. Don't sing about touching it. Don't think about singing about touching it.
Which now is funny because the whole idea of what that apple is supposed to represent, is human nature in a nutshell. So maybe it is inevitable for the apple to be taken. Maybe it's inevitable for Johnny to seek revenge. The fact that he can't die, and we have no explanation for why. Maybe Johnny is just that, that unstoppable force of nature that is the, violent nature that all of us have to deal with in some way or another at some point in our lives. So yeah, maybe this movie is just a read on what it means to be human and the inevitability of violence in nature.
Damn, Danny.
Damn, Daniel.
Damn, Daniel. That was good. That was real good. So, very insightful.
How about them apples?
Nice. Okay, that's it. That is In a Violent Nature, and that is our masked up triple feature.
We're done. Can I finally take my mask off? I've been recording all these episodes with a heavy, rusted fire mask from this movie.
Yeah, take it off. Just
thank you.
Hang it up. Put it in a glass case.
Oh fuck! I can finally breathe. That's called voice acting, guys. You probably thought I was really wearing a mask. I wasn't. That was a bit. It was a very good one.
This whole time.
This whole time.
Yeah. So we covered Phantom of the Paradise. We started it off with Phantom of the Paradise. We went into Mike Flanagan's Hush and took a little break for our ranking episode, our Halloween special. And we wrapped it up here with In a Violent Nature. So now normally all three of us, Casey included, would announce our next features films for this next triple feature. But since Casey isn't here, we're going to say her piece for her. Our next triple feature coming up, given the holiday season, is Seasons Creepings.
Oh,
we've got 3 holiday movies to cover the holiday season.
Because in the horror world, we don't greet, we creep.
Yeah. So we're starting it off with Casey's pick for Thanksgiving is essentially Thanksgiving.
But what's the pick?
Thanksgiving.
I know, but like for the Thanksgiving pick, what's the title of the movie?
Thanksgiving.
Zach, if you could just tell me the title instead of repeating what the holiday is that she's celebrating.
Eli Roth's Thanksgiving.
I happen to know that Eli Roth does not celebrate Thanksgiving. So I don't know what you're trying to do with me, but you're messing with my head and I don't appreciate it.
Well, you're just going to have to be messed with then, because I don't know how else to say it other than the 2023 holiday slasher film Thanksgiving.
I like to be messed with, so I appreciate that.
Danny, what movie are we covering for Christmas?
For Christmas, we're going to do a holiday classic.
As we always do.
It's a go-to classic for this season. We are going to be watching.
It's one that you would absolutely think of when you think of a Christmas movie.
It's the first thing you put on when you think of Santa Claus and you think of elves and you think of presents under the tree and snow. And it's Guillermo del Toro's Kronos. Now, before you all, I can hear pitchforks clinking. It's not a Christmas movie traditionally. I understand that. However, it is a horror film and it is set in and around Christmas. There are some Christmas elements to it. And for that reason, I took the liberty of saying, I believe that this will work in our little Seasons Creepings triple feature. So I decided to go with it.
Okay. Yeah, I like it. I have never finished it. It's one of those movies where I've seen like pieces of it, and I think I saw like the first quarter, maybe the first half of it, but I never finished it. So I'm interested.
So you saw the George Washington of it, yeah?
What?
It's like 1 quarter.
Oh,
George
my God, he's on the quarter. George Washington's on the quarter.
Yeah. Well, in all fairness, that was one of the stupidest things I've ever said. So
once you explained it to me, I liked it.
That's how you know a joke works.
That's right.
Just really sit down and explain it.
We're going to wrap up our holiday Seasons Creepings triple feature with a very fun New Year's movie, End of Days, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and Gabriel Byrne.
Don't you mean End of Year?
No, End of Days. I remember when that movie came out. It was 1999, obviously. Me and my mom went to see it in the movie theater. And we came out, it was like a very late showing. We came out, it was like midnight. It was raining and we had a flat tire in the parking lot. Can you believe that?
Are you too superstitious enough to think that the movie had some effect on how you guys were stranded in your car with the flat tire?
Oh, it probably was the movie.
You were like, Gabriel Byrne's coming for us. I can feel the burn.
But I'm excited to talk about End of Days because I haven't seen it in years, and I remember really enjoying that movie.
And I've been on that's not true. I was going to say I was on an Arnold Schwarzenegger kick lately. And by that, I mean I watched one Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. I watched Commando recently.
Oh, yeah.
Really fun. Haven't seen it since I was a child, and it's very fun.
What does he say? He says, like, you said you weren't going to drop me or something. He said, I lied.
I lied.
Drops him.
It is such a fun movie. I really forgot about
that.
It is he is Jason Voorhees. Speaking of Jason and Johnny, he murders. He scalps someone, like straight up saws their head off, cuts someone's arm off. It is carnage in a way that my memory did not retain.
Sure. Yeah.
Holy shit. Yeah, guys.
Yeah.
We don't really do recommendations anymore, but Commando, oh my God.
Yep. Yeah. I remember Commando, watching that as a kid, and you don't remember how brutal it is until you watch it again as an adult.
And I didn't understand the title, but then you realize he does the whole movie without underwear on. And I was like, oh, I get it. That's a good twist.
It all makes sense now.
Yeah. That's the sequel's called Commando 2 Freeballing. But there's like, I don't know, there's a clever connection to balls that isn't, you get it. What are we talking about?
We're talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger's balls. And Mel Gibson rolling pretzels in drag. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for joining us on this trip through the Northern Ontario wilderness. If you've seen In a Violent Nature and you want to talk more about it, find us on social media, How I Met Your Monster, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, or you can send us an email at howimetyourmonsterpodcast@gmail.com. Some things you could do if you want to stay in the loop with us. You can sign up for our newsletter. You can find that at howimetyourmonster.com and send us your email, and you'll get fun insights before anybody else. We are going to start rolling out a new thing for How I Met Your Monster. We are launching a Patreon. If you are so inclined to get some bonus material from us, or just support us because you love us.
We have more ideas in store, more gifts, more episodes than you can shake a pretzeled corpse at.
That's right.
A pretzeled corpse's fist at? I don't know. That's stupid.
So there will be more information on that rolling out over the next couple of weeks. And so make sure to follow us so you don't miss a thing there. Danny, where can our listeners find you on social media?
Well, as always, you can find me on various socials like Instagram and whatnot. And my name, Danny Salem. That's Danny, D-A-N-N-Y, Salem, S-A-L-E-M-M-E, 2 M's like the candy, melt in your butt, not in your hands.
Wonderful. And you can find me on social media at Zach Winsick.
Oh, we should point out, if this is your first time listening, it's not usually just me and Zach. It is Zach, Danny, and it is Casey, our third guest. And not only will she be back for our next episode and the start of our Season Creepings triple feature, we will also have a wonderful guest. So make sure you, stay tuned just for that alone, just to not have an over, you're like, wow, this is too much of Zach and Danny.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
there will be
we're
more.
about to water it down with some goodness. So
we're
going to dilute this duo. We're going to dilute this duo with a cruo of foro. That's how you say things, right? These are words.
That's how you say things. Yes. They're words. They may not be used all the time, but they are words.
No. Rarely used, but when used, they really land.
Mm-hmm. As they just did.
Yeah, as you can tell that this is just like a nice little sturdy landing.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. Now go meet some monsters.